high school. One would be competing against other rival schools. I love that. North County, Park Hills, all the schools. It's just a really good time. You get to go out there on the court or field or do whatever you do, whether it's baseball, football, softball, basketball, the whole 9 yards, you know. You get to go out there, compete, and do what you love.
All the sports teams support each other and we all have big crowds on our games.
Well, for what I most enjoy about participating in sports is the competition. You know, beating people is fun. Not just that, you know, also being a part of a team, learning to how to deal with other people, even if they have a horrible attitude about things. You gotta learn to get along and come together and win. That's what I love about sports: the competition, the people. It's just a great experience. These are memories you'll never forget.
Some of my favorite things I love about cheer is the experience that I've gotten. I've been able to meet new people. I've been able to go to different schools, cheer for my school and for the community. I love how I've gained a second family. Just like a family, we argue, but just like a family, we all support and love each other. In the end, I would have never thought not to try out for cheer. These past 3 years, and now going for a 4th year, it's just been an amazing experience, and I love it all.
I believe sports at Farmington High School gives you great opportunities.
I enjoy the relationships you build. There's no other place in the world that you can build relationships like Farmington. We always give and take with each other. We might get mad, but in the end, we always love each other. We'll fight for each other and we'll take a bullet for each other.
It helped us stay in shape and helping me keep pushing until I reach my goal.
What I enjoy most of cheering at Farmington High School is that we just don't cheer for the typical sports. We actually cheer for everything. We'll go to soccer meets, we'll go to tennis matches, and we get a chance to work with the high school sports as a whole and not just the typical sports.
I honestly enjoy the coaches here at Farmington High School because they push us to be the best that we can be at our individual sport.
I enjoy being with my friends a lot. I've made a lot of new friendships, and the fact that it's a smaller community, so you have a lot more support than in big cities.
What I enjoy most is that we don't have captains or co-captains. We just have everyone working together. Because usually whenever you think about cheerleading, you think that there's going to be a captain, but here at FHS we don't have that. And we're all a big team and we're all leaders.
My favorite thing about playing sports at Farmington High School is getting to play with people that I've known since kindergarten and getting to grow up with them and then finally getting to play sports with them and graduate with them. It's pretty cool.
Playing sports at Farmington High School helps you make friendships that last a lifetime.
Oh my God.
Is being on the team, having people like Jake with me for the past couple of years, because I know when I ran middle school, he was obviously not the most athletic person, and then he started his sophomore year of high school, and then that motivated me to stay in shape and not give up. And so the most I enjoy about Farmington High School sports is the teammates and how the school pushes you to keep working hard, and especially my coach Tim. I don't even think I've ever had any other coach besides him, because he's just the best out there. So it's basically just a team.
We have such great opportunities here. Instead of one coach, we have 3 that help us every single day. And we get to go to camp and regionals, and those are such great life experiences.
Running to me is more of a lifestyle choice, and I know if I wouldn't have started when I was in middle school, this is my 6th year of running cross country and track here at Farmington High School. And I know if I wouldn't have started it when I was in middle school, I wouldn't be doing it today. And I probably wouldn't have ever picked up running ever in my life. And I know it's something that I'm going to continue later on, and I feel like doing it here has definitely challenged me, and being able to do it with people that keep encouraging me. I feel like at Farmington High School I've had a lot of encouragement, especially from our coaches. I'm one of the slower runners, and I always have been. And I feel like a lot of coaches would be discouraging and just wouldn't encourage you to keep going and set goals, but the ones here have really motivated me, and also the people that do it. Everyone's just so nice and happy, and it's a really great environment. And I feel like I'm gonna do it for the rest of my life. I've already ran 3 half marathons, and in the future I want to go farther and run maybe marathons, ultras, triathlons, because I'm also a swimmer. I'm planning on doing that in the winter too. And I just feel like it's just changed like my life, and it's become a part of me.
The team, it's more of a family than a team of anything. We grow really close to each other.
I like how the experience has allowed me to meet new people and be involved with my community.
Well, this is my first year playing volleyball, and I really feel accepted on the team.
What I enjoy most is honestly our facilities and the legacy we have behind just our teams in general. Because we've had some pretty good teams over the years, and I feel like we just got to kind of live up to that, you know.
Another great thing about Farmington High School is it's got a great coaching staff, no matter what it is. All the sports, they're all good.
My favorite part about playing sports at Farmington is how the coaches push us to be the best we can be.
I like being a cheerleader at FHS because we have high expectations, and that makes me want to be the best that I can be.
I enjoy being with my teammates and making new friends. And one thing that I've learned throughout playing sports and moving from different school districts is that the coaches make you work a lot harder and they have higher expectations for yourself and for the team.
Okay, so we wanted to start off with that this evening because, you know, our activities and our athletic programs are all about providing opportunities for kids, for our kids in our school district, and giving them the chance to do all of the things that they talked about up there. And they can say it way better than I can or somebody else can. So we just really wanted to hear, you know, what some of our students have to say. And I just wanted to thank Mr. Murray and his class from his summer school class. They put that together. They're, you know, and that was mostly, I think, or maybe entirely senior students, going to be seniors, and we couldn't get all of them because it was in the summer, but they got a lot of them together. They did the videoing, they did the editing, and they put a lot of work into that, so we really appreciate them doing that. My name is John Bacon. I'm the activities director. There's my contact information up there. The athletics website is fhsknights.com, and so that has some scheduling information on it. Emails for the individual coaches are located under the sports tab at fhsknights.com. Swim is not that. Swim is a new sport that we've got this year. We do not have it. They haven't added swim yet to our website, but it will be there soon. And then the Booster Club, anybody has questions, they've got a table out there. I know I saw a lot of you visiting the table on your way in. If you want to ask them more questions, I think they'll be there afterwards. This actually is, I believe, also on the back page of that white packet of papers that you got. It's all the Twitter accounts or whatever you call that, whatever you call that, what you sign up so that you get the tweets for the different sports. That is that there, and I believe you've got a copy of that. Hopefully you do. We are really proud of our student athletes. I mean, that really, you know, having the opportunity this past year to watch our students practice and compete, every time they did, I was proud of them. Every time they did, or every time I got the chance to watch them, they competed hard, they played well as a team, they represented themselves and their families and their school very, very well. You know, they displayed a lot of courage on the court and on the field, but they also displayed a lot of grace and a lot of sportsmanship. And so we are really proud of our kids, really proud of how they represent the school, and really proud to be able to be associated with them. We're very grateful for you, our parents. I know that it takes a tremendous amount of time to coordinate schedules, to get kids where they need to be, to get them fed at the strange hours that they have to keep when practices and games are going on. All the things that you do to support your kids throughout the sports season, we appreciate that. And most of all, we just appreciate the fact that you share your kids with us for 2 or 3 or 4 hours a day during the season. You trust them to us, and hopefully we live up to that trust. But just giving us the opportunity to work with them, we are very grateful for that. And we are proud of our coaches. I think our coaches do a very good job. They are not perfect. They are more perfect than I am for sure. And but they're not completely perfect. And we make mistakes as a staff. We make mistakes as individuals. And when we do, we try to fix them. make sure that it doesn't happen again, and move on. But overall, our coaches do an outstanding job. They take good care of our kids, I believe. I believe that they do a very good job of working with each kid, trying to help each kid to achieve everything they can. I think they do a very good job of working with the entire team and trying to bring it all together. So our coaches do an awful lot of good things, and we are very proud of them. We're committed to helping our kids grow up and to continue to be positive leaders. If we have to just boil it down to two things, and a lot of different things we could say, and a lot of different ways that you can put it, but we want to try to help our kids to continue to be positive leaders today, so positive leaders on their team, positive leaders amongst the members of their class, amongst the entire school, and then also successful adults in the future. Those two things we believe we can accomplish through our activities and athletics program, and that's something that's very important to us, and that's something that we try to do every day. How we do that, we want everyone in our program, so that would be me, that would be other administrators, that would be coaches, that would be
when an injury occurs, it may appear hours or days later. And most concussions actually do occur without a loss of consciousness. Some of those signs and symptoms include difficulty thinking, difficulty concentrating or remembering, feeling slowed down, feeling sluggish, hazy, foggy or groggy. They may complain of a headache or nausea or have nausea or vomiting. There may be some balance problems or dizziness, feeling fatigued or tired, blurry or double vision. There may be some sensitivity to light or noise. They may even have some numbness or tingling, and overall they just don't feel very right. As parents, you may see your student athlete being more irritable, more sad, it's more emotional than normal, they may be nervous, drowsy. They may have difficulty recalling events both prior to and after the incident. They may be confused about events, answer questions more slowly. They may repeat questions and show behavioral personality changes. They may even forget their schedule, and that may not be on purpose. Some danger signs. Now, these are things that we look for if we're at a practice or a game. But some things you can also pay attention to is that one pupil is larger than the other. If we're having difficulty awakening a student athlete, if a headache worsens, if they have repeated nausea or vomiting, if their speech is slurred, if they obviously have convulsions or seizures, difficulty recognizing people or places, and if they become increasingly confused or agitated. And obviously, if it's loss of consciousness, it's a medical emergency. Athletes that have a concussion, whether it's in practice or a game, according to Misha, will never return to sports or activities on the same day that that injury has occurred. That's one thing we take very seriously as healthcare professionals. So what can parents do? One, we obviously encourage you to listen to your healthcare professional, whether it's your doctor, nurse practitioner, or us on the sideline. We may limit activities while the student athlete is recovering. That may include limit the amount of time that they're spending studying, especially with math. Obviously limiting the amount of time they're on computers, phones, iPads, and obviously playing video games. Overall, we just really want to limit the amount of stimulation that the student athlete is exposed to while they're bringing the student. Prevention, obviously you can't 100% prevent a concussion. We can take steps to try to help reduce that possibility, but those keys are using proper sports equipment, making sure it's worn correctly and fits properly, and then using that equipment at all practices and games. The other thing that's very important is that you're always listening to your coach. You're using proper rules and safety. You're basically, in football as an example, you're tackling with your head up, you're not doing things you shouldn't be doing, and practicing good sportsmanship. A lot of times when we see injuries occur, it's because of a sportsmanship issue. Our role, so if you see us on the sideline, what you will see us doing in cases of a concussion, obviously the health and safety of the student athlete is our primary concern, not what's occurring on the field or in the game. So we're going to make sure that one, we're performing a variety of tests and examinations to see what's going on with them. And if we feel that that student athlete does indeed have a concussion, then we follow Misha's protocol. Once again, as mentioned previously, we'll not let them return in that game until they'll be finished for the night. Once they're symptom-free, and it depends on if it's their first concussion, if they're symptom-free for at least 24 hours, then we slowly start the progression of getting them back into activity. It does include follow-up impact testing. The kids will be taking impact testing, which gives us a baseline. Follow-up impact testing allows us to compare to that baseline and see whether they're performing cognitively. And once they appear ready to return to sport, and that's when we refer them back to their primary care providers and make sure that they sign off on that MISHA return to play form. Bottom line, we do want the primary care providers involved in the whole process as well. So keep in contact with your physician or healthcare providers. I always will tell parents who have had kids that have had concussions, one thing they ask you to do is monitor symptoms. If they worsen, once again, we consider that as an emergency, and we want you to take them to the emergency room. And bottom line, we as healthcare professionals are not going to risk the safety and welfare of your children for the event or the game that's going on at that time. We're going to make sure that they're safe. And the bottom thing here, it talks about how long-term concussions or repeated concussions obviously have an increased chance of memory problems, dementia, and/or Alzheimer's. So we take it very seriously. I'm going to hand it over to Andrew, and he's going to talk about nutrition or hydration.
Hey, I'm going to try to fairly briefly touch on, like you said, hydration and also supplementation. Those are two topics there's a lot of haziness and a lot of discussion around that everybody has an opinion on. Nobody's quite sure what's true. So I'm going to hit on those real quick. And everything I talked about this evening is pretty much directly off the ACSM website. That's American Sports Medicine Society. So if you want more in-depth information on it, I'm going to go over some numbers and some specific supplement names, and if those go over your head or you forget them or whatever, go on ACSM's website. They have a huge amount of information on all of this stuff. So make sure that you are following up with it, because there's a lot to be learned there with what your athletes are putting in their bodies. So the first thing with hydration, it's defined as 2 to 3% loss of your body mass through liquids. So if you're a 100-pound person, you lose 2 pounds because of sweating, you're technically dehydrated. And you do the math from there. They usually say if you're thirsty, then you're already getting dehydrated. I mean, that's kind of subjective, but the idea is that you're actually losing body weight because you're losing fluids. So it's an important thing in performance, and if you're low on body fluids, let alone nutrition, you're going to increase your risk not only for cramps and stuff like rhabdomyolysis, which is the muscle destruction. You can also increase your risk for heart issues, cardiopulmonary type of things. So even though it's something, you need to drink some water, it can be life-threatening if you let it. So as far as how you hydrate, usually you do it in 3 stages. The first one is before you perform an athletic event. You're going to want to drink water 4 hours or so before. The reason why you want to give yourself time, because you want all that liquid to absorb and have a chance to avoid that before you have to play a sport. So there's nothing worse than being in the middle of the game and having to go to the bathroom. So this helps avoid that. And the ACSM recommends that you do 2 to 3 milliliters of water or sports drink per pound of body weight. So if you're a 180-pound athlete, then you want to drink approximately 18 ounces of fluid 4 hours before. So that's really not too much. If you're not previously dehydrated, 18 ounces of fluid isn't a huge amount, but it's enough to keep, you're going to be able to replace that. Hyperhydration, which is drinking above and beyond that. Like I said, if you're not dehydrated, there's no clear benefits of it. And if you're drinking too much, then you have to wind up, like I said, going back during the game. And you can also, if you drink enough, you can dilute some of the other good macronutrients that are within the bloodstream. So that sweet spot is really where you want to drink. So during exercise, the main goal is to replace the amount of fluids that you sweat out, and then also replace the amount of energy that is within the blood through sugars, basically, and electrolytes. So to do that, you can either use Gatorade or you can use sports gels or powders, stuff like that. But if you're using those gels, things like that, you have to hydrate with water also. Otherwise, you're just adding sugars into your bloodstream without diluting that with the appropriate amount of water, and it's not going to absorb correctly. After a game, you want to replace everything that you lost in your body. So, again, ACSM recommends that you drink 16 to 24 ounces of sports drink for every pound of body weight lost. So we go back to that 180-pound athlete. If he is technically in that dehydrated range, if he's lost those 2 pounds within the sports, then he's going to want to drink almost a half gallon of something like Gatorade over the next 4 hours after their sporting event. So you don't have to chug it all right then. Give yourselves time for it to absorb. And then on top of that, you want to, I won't get into it too much because Caitlin's going to talk about it, but you'll want to get those amounts of protein as well in your body to build up the muscle breakdown that you've had. So that's before, during, and after exercise, what the fluid replacement should be like. There's a slide. The second half of what I'm going to talk about are those supplements. So they're also known as ergogenic aids, which just means helping out with sports. So the main four, or really the main three that I'm going to talk about are the ones that you already hear a lot about. Protein and creatine are the big two, but then you also have vitamins, and then a lot of caffeine is used in sports as well. So really, the main, like I said here, the main things to remember is the supplement industry is truly an industry. It's an $18 billion industry. So everything you're seeing from marketing, they're trying to sell you something. And in America, they can write any sort of athletic claims on their bottles as long as they're listing what active ingredients are in there. They can say that it does anything. They can say it makes you fly if they want to, and that's not illegal. So be aware that what their claims are doesn't have to be true. And even more than that, what they list as in there, sometimes there's a lot of speculation on whether or not these unreputable sources are actually putting everything that's supposed to be in there. So for example, a non-reputable protein powder could possibly put trace amounts of anabolic steroid in there in order to make their supplement perform better and give them a better reputation. Completely illegal, but if they don't get caught, then they're getting a better reputation, and your son or daughter is inadvertently getting a harmful substance. So not to scare you off from that, just make sure that what your son or daughter is taking is from a reputable source and you've done your research from it. So as far as the big four that I was talking about, so creatine is something that is relatively new in the trusted category. So 20 years ago, nobody had heard of creatine. When I was in school, well, it was still kind of a hazy thing. So they were just coming out with creatine supplementation. Now we have a decent amount of research on it on adult athletes. Now that's important to remember that most of the studies for all these things have been done on adult athletes. So there's a lot of differences, you know, if somebody's going through puberty and developing. But for the most part, most of these can be translated into your high school and probably not middle school athletes, why you have to all this kind of stuff. I would wait for that for sure. But with creatine, the idea is that it's replacing latent energy, which is ADP anyway. So it translates into usable energy within your muscles. So for explosive sports like football or wrestling, things like that, it has actually been shown to increase the performance as the muscle fatigues. It doesn't really help as much in aerobic exercises like cross country or track or where you're running longer distances, so creatine's not going to help as much there. But with those explosive sports, it can help. The flip side of that, it has been shown to cause some dehydration, cause some weight gain, and cause stomach discomfort. So make sure if your athlete is using this, they're hydrating properly, and they don't have any other predisposing factors that would complicate that. So it can be seen as a safe supplement. So if you hear your son or daughter talking about just creatine, you don't have to freak out too much about it. Just do your research and make sure that they're taking what they're saying they're taking. The next thing is caffeine, which is probably the most widely used drug as far as an ergogenic aid. The good things about it, studies shown recently say that it doesn't necessarily dehydrate you like it said, like people used to say it does. The way that it would dehydrate you if you're just drinking caffeine. If you're just drinking soda and Red Bull and things like that, you're not getting those simple sugars and those electrolytes and as much straight water as you would need to rehydrate. So if you need to rehydrate quickly, there's no substitute for water or a clean sports drink. That said, caffeine can decrease your perceived effort and it can increase your ability to mobilize energy stores. So used in moderation for your size, for your age, caffeine isn't necessarily a bad thing. Doesn't mean that you can drink 2 energy drinks before a game and feel like you're going to be able to focus and not be jittery the whole time. So use common sense and don't combine it with any other sort of herbal supplement or anything else that's going to do anything as far as energy level. And there's not a whole lot of drawback to it. And then the protein that I was talking about down there at the bottom, again, it can always be a carrier for unknown substances if you're buying from someone who don't really know the background of how they synthesize their protein supplements. But protein supplements in itself, like whey protein, it's just whey that has been synthesized down from a dairy product into protein. So it's no better, essentially, than eating a lean meat. So you're going to spend more protein and get the same amount. Now, if you're on the road or if you're in a position where it's not easy to get, the lean fish and chicken and things like that, it's okay to eat like a protein bar or drink a protein shake as long as you know that that's all that's in it. The last thing that I threw on there, because it might come up if you hear your athlete talking, is sodium bicarbonate, which is essentially baking soda. The surprising thing is it does perform as these commercial products say it does. It will decrease, it'll neutralize the amount of the burning sensation in the muscles, the lactic acid, and it'll allow performance to continue. The problem is, what happens when you add vinegar or water to baking soda, you get an excess amount of bubbles of gas. And that usually happens half an hour to 2 hours after you take these products. So usually the risks outweigh the benefits in the form of stomach cramps and other things associated with that. So I would be really careful if your athlete is wanting to try something like that, but it's not technically harmful. It can just really prevent your body. And then real quickly, the supplements that don't perform as claimed. This is most supplements out there. Like I said, they can slap a label on anything and say that it promises you the world. So things like that obviously include ginseng and bee pollen and oxygenated water. A lot of weightlifters now are even going around with colostrum and things like that, and ribose, which is it's a simple sugar. So a lot of these things, they just don't perform as they're supposed to, so don't waste your money on them. And there's a complete list of all of these on the S7's website. And then the illegal or dangerous or banned by athletics associations products, obviously anabolic steroids, throw that out there. It is definitely 100% illegal for an athlete to use them. On its heels are pro-hormones, which are basically the precursors for anabolic steroids. And they're synthesized a different way. And the commercial name for them is usually andro. And there's, again, 20 or 30 different types of these pro-hormones. And they're in the process of becoming illegal too. I don't know if they're quite legal in NISHA rules yet or not, but we're finding that andro or pro-hormones harm the body long-term the exact same way as regular anabolic steroids do. So again, just because something isn't called an anabolic steroid that your child is bringing home doesn't mean it can't be harmful. So do your research there. And then again, there's a full list on the website of other things. I think one of them is strychnine. People are still using rat poison to try to make themselves perform better. And as far as vitamins go, if your doctor or your athlete's pediatrician or whatever has them on an iron supplement for anemia and things like that, do it. There's no reason not to. As far as the multivitamin goes, really the only benefits of that is if your athlete is coming off of dieting or cutting weight, or if they're coming off a sickness, great. Get them back into a normal diet and supplement those vitamins and minerals. But other than that, if they're eating a well-rounded meal, their well-rounded diet, you're not going to get a lot of benefits from multivitamins. It's not going to hurt anything. My nutrition professor in college said you take multivitamins and you eat a full meal, you have the most expensive urine that anyone you know. So your body's just going to avoid that. So don't stress out over those too much. And like I said, there's no replacement for getting your nutrients through healthy food. If your athlete is supplementing, you don't ever know exactly what they're taking. You don't know exactly what it's going to do with your body. There are those specific things that studies have shown are performing as they say, but like I said, you never know. So Caitlin's going to tell you guys a little bit more about nutrition and about the healthy ways for your athletes to be able to perform their athletics.
Hello. So I'm going to be talking about nutrition and the importance of it in your athletes. All right, so we're going to be talking about what's in the food that we're eating and what our athletes should be eating to enhance their performance. So we're going to start with carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are the most important thing for your athletes to be eating. We want them to have at least 60% of their diet to consist of carbohydrates. If you want to calculate that, you can take their weight in pounds, multiply it by 2.5 grams, and that should give you an idea of how many grams of carbohydrates they should be getting a day. And the reason carbohydrates are so important is because they are the primary source of energy for the first roughly 30 to 90 minutes of an athletic event, depending on the intensity of the event. But they're our primary source of energy to supply the fuel for the exercise. There's two different kinds of carbohydrates though. The first one is simple carbohydrates, and these are the ones that we want to stay away from. These are the ones that are in many processed foods. They're in soda, sugary drinks, white bread, and any kind of sugary breakfast cereal or granola bars. They give you a rapid source of energy, but they don't last long, so they're not going to sustain the athlete through the athletic event. And they can also cause problems like diabetes and things like that in the future. Then there's complex carbs. These are the ones you really want to make sure your athletes are getting. They provide energy at a slower rate than the simple carbs, but they will sustain them longer. These are things such as whole grain breads, rice and pasta, preferably wheat or brown rice, grains, beans, potatoes, and fresh fruit. Then we have fats. And while fats sometimes have a bad reputation, they are essential for our diet. They just need to be limited, and you can make sure your athletes are eating the right kinds of fats. They provide cushion for our organs, they provide insulation for our nerves, and they also help us absorb vitamins. These need to be limited because they can, again, cause problems with diabetes and high cholesterol in the future if you don't eat the right kinds of fats. The other thing to think about with fats is they can stay in your stomach for at least 4 hours. So if the athlete eats them too close to the event, they could still be in the stomach and could cause the athlete to be nauseous or even throwing up during the athletic event. So here's the kinds of fats. We'll start with the saturated fats. These are the ones that are in a lot of fatty meats, such as bacon or real greasy meats. They're also in whole milk or whole milk yogurt or cheese or egg yolks. You want to try to limit this to no more than 10% of your athlete's diet. Then we have the unsaturated fats. These are the good ones. These are the ones you want to make sure the athletes are getting, and they're essential for our health. These are in things such as olive oil, canola oil, avocados, fish, almonds, soybeans, and flaxseed. And then we have the trans fats. These are the bad ones. So these are the ones you want your athletes to stay as far away from as possible. There are many baked goods, such as pies and cakes, the stuff we like, the processed foods and fried foods. All right, lastly we have proteins. As Andrew stated before, proteins are very important in repairing and rebuilding muscle after it's been used in the athletic event. We want the athlete's diet to consist of about 10 to 20% protein. Proteins are in things such as meat, preferably leaner meats like fish and chicken that have less fat, milk, eggs, nuts, beans, and soy products. You want to try to stick with the grilled meat versus the fried or even broiled meat, but when you fry meat, you not only add trans fat that I talked about before, but you also lose some of the nutrients. And you want to try to get your protein from food versus supplements, because with the food you also get other nutrients, other vitamins that supplements are not providing. So now that you're all thinking about what you're going to make or eat for dinner, let's talk about what your athletes need for game day. So the first thing is make sure they're eating breakfast. This should not be skipped out on. This is very, very important. It should be a well-balanced breakfast, something with plenty of carbs, some protein, and some healthy fats. And here's some good examples. I'll let you read that, but stick with something that's high in carbohydrates, like cereal or oatmeal, but not the sugary kind, and then some kind of a fruit. Whole grain toast with peanut butter, or some like an egg and cheese sandwich on some whole grain bread. So you want to make sure they're eating that main meal at least 3 to 4 hours before the event. Again, you don't want it to be sitting in their stomach while they're participating. It should be something very high in carbohydrates. You want at least 150 to 350 grams of carbs, preferably the complex carbs that I talked about. You want some form of lean protein and a vegetable. So, for example, a good meal would be like a grilled chicken with a potato or some brown rice and then some broccoli or something like that. I don't know if you all can see this, especially up there, but this is from the USADA.org website. It's USADA.org. And that website has a lot of really good charts like this to give you examples on what your athletes should be eating. So it might be a good thing to kind of go over with them so they have an idea of what's going to help their performance the most. Okay, and then 1 hour before the event, it'd be good for them to have a small snack. Again, this should be carbohydrate rich, low in fat. So some fresh fruits, low sugar granola bar, low fat yogurt, nuts, cheese, and whole grain crackers, or some peanut butter and some wheat bread. So what if your athlete has an event that lasts all day, such as a wrestling tournament or a track meet or something like that? Well, here's kind of an outline of what you want to do to make sure they are replenishing their stores of energy throughout the day. If they have less than 1 hour before their next event, you want to stick with liquid types of carbohydrates, like a sports drink, a Gatorade or something. If they're needing something in their stomach, if they're just starving and need something, maybe stick with some kind of fruit that will sit lightly in their stomach. If they have 2 to 3 hours before the next event, you can do a solid food in the form of carbohydrate, or a carbohydrate in the form of a solid food. Bagels, hot or cold cereal, or English muffin with fruit would be good. Again, you want to stay away from fatty foods. Pizza, that kind of stuff, a lot of grease you want to stay away from. If they have at least 4 hours before the next event, you can go ahead and they can have a full meal. But again, you want to stay away from the real fatty foods and stick with some good complex carbs, like a turkey sandwich on wheat bread, low-fat yogurt, and a little bit of fruit. The main thing is you want to stay away from concession stand food. That's where you're going to find your trans fat and your simple carbohydrates, which are only going to hinder your performance and make you feel pretty crummy for the next event. So if you can, try to pack your athlete a cooler of some healthier food options so they don't go get the nachos and the pizza at the concession stand. Nothing against pizza, but so after the event, you want to make sure they're replenishing those energy stores. So you want to make sure they're eating a light snack within 30 minutes of completing the event, something like some fruit or some kind of carbohydrate-rich food. It'd also be good to replenish their electrolytes, so something high in potassium is good. And then within 2 hours of finishing the event, it's good to have a full meal. You want this to be a well-balanced meal because they have, you're going to need to replenish the carbohydrate stores and rebuild the muscle that's been broken down during the event. So again, something rich in complex carbohydrates, lean protein, and some vegetable. And this is important because they're going to repair that muscle that they've broken down for the next 24 hours. So it's important to just make sure they're refueling well. So here's just kind of a summary. The main things I want you all to take from this is making sure that they're eating well-balanced meals. Lots of complex carb, lots of lean protein, and some healthy fats are important. Stay away from the simple carbs, the sugar, and from the trans fat. And then you can read, again, on game day, make sure they're eating breakfast, giving at least 3 to 4 hours after their big meal before the event, and then kind of snacking throughout the day on healthy snacks, and then replenishing their stores afterwards. And then next will be Aaron Baker with heat and cold related injuries.
Hi guys, I'm going to talk a little bit about heat-related injuries. This is a really relevant topic right now, especially with the weather that we've been having lately, especially for a lot of the outdoor activities. So basically there are 3 types of heat-related injuries that I'm going to be going over. First, we have heat cramps, second, heat exhaustion, and then heat stroke. With heat cramps, these are basically a brief involuntary muscle cramping. This can occur during activity, but also this can happen hours later. Heat cramps are related to electrolyte imbalances that occur from excess sweating. If your athlete is having heat cramps, you want to obviously move them to a cool area, allow them to rest. You can remove excess clothing, kind of mist them with some cold water, and also place cool cloths on their neck or on other areas of their skin. You also want to encourage your athlete to drink fluids that are going to contain salt and sugar. This is a lot of the sports drinks, especially something like Gatorade. This is going to really replenish those electrolytes that they've lost during the sweating. And obviously you can stretch the cramp muscle. This is going to allow it to relax. Next we have heat exhaustion. This occurs when the athlete is exposed to high temperatures for a prolonged period of time. This is usually accompanied by dehydration. Some of the symptoms of heat exhaustion are listed. They include confusion, dizziness, fainting, headache, nausea, diarrhea, pale skin, profuse sweating, and rapid heart rate. Heat exhaustion is not as serious as a heat stroke, but it should be taken seriously to avoid progression into a heat stroke, which is considered a medical emergency. If your athlete is experiencing heat exhaustion, some of these treatments are going to be similar to heat cramps. You're going to move them to a cool place, allow them to rest, remove any excess clothing. You're going to encourage them to drink cool beverages such as water or Gatorade. With a lot of these heat-related illnesses, the main thing that you want to focus on is lowering their core body temperature. So you want the beverages to be cold whenever they're served. And then finally, if there's no improvement after you administer fluids, you should have your athlete visit the ER to prevent the progression into heat stroke. With heat stroke, as I mentioned, it's considered a medical emergency. It usually progresses from the other heat-related illnesses. It's defined by a core body temperature rising to 105 degrees or greater. Some of the symptoms here are listed. They include throbbing headache, lack of sweating, red, dry skin, rapid heart rate and breathing, cognitive changes, seizures, and unconsciousness. So basically the main differences between heat exhaustion and heat stroke that you need to be aware of are that once your athlete has reached the point of heat stroke, their body has kind of lost the ability to cool itself. So they're no longer going to be sweating at this point. Also, they're going to be undergoing some severe cognitive changes. They're going to be severely confused at this point. And some of the other things that are listed, such as the seizures and unconsciousness, may be a possibility. So with the heat stroke, you want to call 911 immediately if you are even suspecting that your athlete may be undergoing heat stroke. While emergency response is on the way, you want to move your athlete to a cool area. Try to lower their core body temperature as much as possible. Some of the best ways to do this would be to possibly submerge them in cold water. If cold water or an ice bath isn't available, you can put ice bags kind of on the groin and the armpit areas to try to lower their temperature a little bit. And if they're alert and they're able to, you want them to drink cold fluids. But like I said, only if they're alert and able. Just a few other points to hit on with heat-related illnesses as far as prevention. You want your athletes to wear lightly colored, loose-fitting clothing, eat smaller, more frequent meals on hot, humid days,
and then gradually increase the time they're spent outside during the summer months and in the early fall to allow them to acclimate to the hot temperatures. And then finally, you want them to drink plenty of fluids. This excludes caffeinated beverages, and Andrew said they don't directly contribute to dehydration, but if your athlete isn't drinking, the water and the pure sports drinks that they should be drinking to get their, proper hydration, this is going to cause dehydration. That kind of wraps up some of the topics that we wanted to hit on. Like Dave was saying, we really appreciate being a part of Farmington Athletics. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Coach Bacon. Thank you all from Sports Rehab. The things that that they were talking about, things that you can do for nutrition, hydration, concussion, heat. Our coaches are well aware of that. But at 6 o'clock earlier this evening, they were meeting with the same staff from Sports Rehab and going over all these things and just reviewing things they already know. They already
a life lesson, many life lessons. It's taught me how to be a better person.
So our coaches are very aware of this. Some things at the state level, the Missouri State High School Athletic Association has instituted a 16-day acclimatization regimen where you can't go. Back in the old days when I was playing high school football and all the other sports back in the day, we would do that very first day of practice, we would do 2-a-days, and it might be 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon. Now it's the periods are shortened. The amount of time that you can go, you can't go. They have all kinds of regulations to gradually move your body, our athletes' bodies, into being acclimated to the heat and the humidity. Many of our athletes already are from all of the stuff that they do over the summer. But still, we go through that at the beginning of the fall season. Our coaches, are well aware of how to treat these things, the things to be looking for, the symptoms to be looking for. But we wanted you to be aware of them as well, just in case, something happens symptoms start to develop right at the end of practice, and the athlete it's not a big deal to them, but then as they, go home or whatever, they get worse, and then they're at home, and then you notice some of these things. So we just wanted you to be aware of all of those things. We follow also MSHA's heat index recommendations. If the heat index is between 95 and 104, we alter practice in some way or ways. So that might mean going earlier in the day or later in the evening to avoid the heat of the day. If we can't do that, we might shorten the amount of time that they practice or lessen the intensity, shorten the duration of each period in between water breaks. Make the water breaks longer, get them into shade if possible, work with less equipment when possible. So there's lots of things that the coaches do when the heat index starts to get up there between 95 and 104 to make it a better situation for the athletes as they acclimate to the heat. And then if it gets above at 105 or above heat index, then we got to go inside. We don't go outside, we practice inside, or we don't practice at all. So we're following these procedures to make sure that we do everything that we can to protect the safety of our athletes. At the same time, the first time that we play a football game or have a cross-country meet or a softball game, it might be really stinking hot and humid. And so we do need to have our athletes getting used to it. So, it's a gradual process. We try to be very aware of how they're progressing through it, but at the same time, we do need to be progressing to the point where their bodies are getting used to that. I think Andy, who is doing a great job of running the video tonight, wants to watch the video, so put on the video. Yeah, it won't come up now when we want it to come up. While he's doing that, This will all be online. We're recording it, or attempting to record it tonight again. Mr. Murray is helping us out. And so this is going to be posted, and we'll get that information out. So if there's something that you missed from the nutrition part, or any of the stuff that Dave's staff talked about, you can go back online and watch it again.
A life lesson, many life lessons. It has taught me how to be a better person, a better teammate. It has taught me all kinds of character and sports make you, I feel like, in a way, make you what kind of person you are.
I've learned that if you put family in the team first, then volleyball comes easy.
An important life lesson that I've learned while playing sports is that it's okay to need help, that you can't always do things on your own, and you have a team behind you that's there to help you whenever you need it. And I think that that'll help me in the future because, you know, as we go through life, there will be things that you can't handle on your own and you need help, and it's okay to ask for help.
I think the most important life lesson I learned in cheerleading is patience, because no matter how long it takes to get something, you're eventually going to get there, and good things in life take time.
Definitely the challenges. Like, I love it, and it's a lot of fun, but it's definitely one of the most challenging things I've ever done. Whether it's like when you're in the middle of a race and there's this gigantic hill near the end of it and you're like struggling to get up it, or if there's someone about to pass you at the end of a race and you don't think you can do it, but you end up passing them up anyway, or just fighting to get through it. I've just gone through like a lot of like difficult challenges through it, but it's been like the best thing I've ever done. And I feel like if I can do that and get through the challenges I've faced with that, then in the future I can overcome even bigger challenges, whether it be like college or anything.
I've learned if you work hard, then you get rewarded.
An important life lesson that sports has taught me is people depend on you even when you don't know it. When you're in 4th and down, you can make a block that might save you the game, and one day in life, your family will rely on you, and when they need you most, you'll be able to push through those tough times.
I've learned that hard work pays off, and you don't only become a better athlete, but a better person.
Through tennis, I learned that you can't always rely on someone when you're on the tennis court. You're by yourself playing singles, so I learned that you can't rely on anyone else. Sometimes you have to rely on yourself and do it on your own, and I think that'll help in life.
My cheer coaches have taught me discipline and having good time management and being the best person I can be. It'll help me in the future by being a great citizen and always being there on time.
Don't never give up your dreams. No, keep fighting and keep going.
Cheering at FHS has taught me how to communicate and trust my team. I think this is important because whenever we graduate, we're going to have to learn how to rely on people and how to communicate with them. Whenever you have a girl flying in the air, the flyer has their lives in their hands, and if you drop them, that can end badly.
Don't complain. As our coaches taught us, 80% of people don't care, and the other 20% want you to have problems. So just suck it up and get on.
It's important because it gives you a sense of direction, and it helps you to learn about yourself and your goals, and you learn through sports that you can pretty much do anything that you set your mind to if you work hard.
I learned that cheaters never win, and if you cheat, you have to do the workout all over.
Okay, we have neat kids at Farmington, and it's fun to listen to them talk and see what things they're learning and things that they can contribute, that they do contribute to the overall athletic program. Okay, so now we're going to go over, and I promise I'll try to keep this as brief as possible, some things from the handbook that we just have to talk about. And we're getting close. Yeah. Okay, so all right, so what we're going to have, a lot of the stuff that's in our activities handbook comes straight from MISHA, from their guidelines. The information that we're going to talk about tonight is a summary of some of the stuff that's in the activities handbook, and it's a summary of some of the stuff that's on the MISHA handbook, but it's not all of it. So please read over the entire handbook. and especially consultant if you have any questions. How to maintain your high school eligibility. Part of that packet of white papers that you have tonight, it has to do with high school eligibility, so that is a summary of how to maintain your eligibility. The other part of that white packet, or one of the other parts of the white packet, is some information about concussion. It's got a listing of some symptoms that you can be looking for at home, things that you can do if you notice that in your athlete. One of the things that are required of our student athletes is citizenship. They have to be good citizens, and our kids are. We're very proud of them for doing that. A couple of things, if anything happens and charges are involved with the law, that all has to be cleared up before the student becomes eligible again. Out of school suspension, they cannot participate if a student missed class on a day without being excused by the principal. They're not eligible on that day. A student who is expelled from school because of disciplinary measures, they're ineligible for 365 days. And if something happens to a student, they are responsible for notifying the school and letting them know. So if something legal, if there's some sort of legal trouble, they should just let their coach know so that we can start working on going through the process of getting them eligible. Academic requirements prior to participation, so this would have happened spring semester of last school year, they have to earn 5.0 units of credit. If they didn't earn that in the spring, obviously they could have made up 1 credit over the summer, which some of our students did. Semester of participation, they need to be enrolled in 5.5 units. Technically, they only need to be enrolled in 5.0 credits, but if something happens, if they have to drop a class, if something weird happens and they failed class that they should have passed, if they only have that 5.0 minimum and they don't have any cushion there, then if something bad happens in a class, then they're out of luck. So that's why we encourage them to take 5.5 units so that they have a little cushion there in case something happens. 2 credits can be earned off campus, dual credit. I know a lot of our students do that. They take off campus credit. So they can only, according to mission rules, only 2 credits per semester can be earned off campus and count towards those 5.0 that they need to be eligible. And 1 unit of credit can be on campus, online, or correspondence. So the big thing to remember for our kids, and we ask you to help us to help them remember, is to not drop any classes once the semester starts without talking to their seminar teacher and without talking to me if they're involved in activities. Because then we can go on, we can check their record or their schedule and make sure that they still have the required number of credits. We do not want somebody to drop a class and then find out at the end of the semester that they only have 4.5 credits and then they're not eligible the next semester. Amateur and award standings. High school athletes are required to be amateur, which means that they can't receive more than $250 in merchandise. So if they were in some sort of a tournament, they could get $250 in worth of t-shirt and, bag and gear and stuff. They couldn't get more than that. They can't get a gift card. They can't get cash. It's got to be what's considered merchandise by mission. Non-school competition, and this can get really tricky, so this would be, a lot of our students do an awful lot in school and an awful lot out of school. So they're involved in multiple teams. When you can be involved with different teams and still be eligible by mission standards, you cannot participate or practice or participate in the same season during the same sport. So if you're playing high school volleyball, you cannot also be on a non-school volleyball team during the volleyball season, okay? And that applies to every sport. So same sport, same season, you can't do that. You can't do a high school sport and a non-school team. Different sports, same season, you can do that. So volleyball season, you can play volleyball, and then you can also be on a non-school basketball team. Basically, the basketball team can't conflict with the volleyball practices or games unless it's prior approved, and it can't conflict with school. College tryouts, all-star contests, and non-school team tryouts are all limited. And we don't have time to get into all the variations of those, but if your student is interested or thinking about getting involved with any of those things, make sure that they talk to their seminar teacher or me to find out exactly what they can do. Quitting a sport, there's stuff in there in the handbook that talks about quitting a sport. If they quit before the first game, it's okay to go ahead and join another team. Bus transportation to school activities. We want all students as much as possible to ride the school transportation to the event. If something happens and they cannot take the school transportation to the event, if it is approved prior to them doing that by the coach or by the AD, then they can still participate. But if they don't get it approved, if they miss the bus and then they just show up for the event, they are not going to be able to participate. And then again, we want them all to take school transportation home unless a parent, one of their own parents or guardians, signs them out. They can't be signed out by any other parent or guardian. Bullying and hazing. If you as a parent notice anything, if your child talks to you about something happening, what we really want to have happen is for them to very quickly, promptly report it to the school resource officer or the principal or me, or any adult in the school that they trust. Or if it's something that you as a parent know and you're aware of, then you can bring it, to the principal or myself or any administrator or teacher. But getting it reported promptly so that something can be done about it is key. Cyberbullying, this also applies. The world is changing. Relationships, people can have personal feelings go back and forth over the internet, and so it's possible to bully somebody when you're not even in the same room. And cyber threats, the same thing. So those also apply. School attendance. Students have to be there before 8:05 a.m. If they're there prior to 8:05, say you get there, school starts, I think it's 7:45 or something like that. If they're only 10 minutes late, then it's just tardy. But if they're more, then I think it's 20 minutes late, which puts them at 8:05 or after. Then they are not tardy, then they're absent, and if they're absent, they can't participate that day. You can leave, obviously, school for a doctor's appointment or a dentist appointment or a driver's test, as long as it's approved by the principal or the AD before you go and still be eligible that day. That's absolutely no problem. It's just when students don't show up for school and it's not pre-approved and it's not for a legitimate reason, then they become ineligible on that day. Training rules, it's the intent of Farmington School District that these policies are not limited to the student's conduct while at the school or at a school-sponsored event. So this is what we're going to talk about now. It applies at school, not at school. Alcohol or drugs, first offense, you're out for 30% of the season, whatever that season, your next season is, or the season is that you're competing in. Second offense, you're out for 365 days. According to mission standards and our activities handbook, if there was any legal ramifications of that, you'd have to complete all those before becoming eligible. And then depending on the situation and what the coach and the athlete and, talk about, and the parents, students may be eligible to practice and travel with the team during the suspension. And we feel like that being a part of the team is a good thing. We believe that's a positive way to spend your time. We don't want to take that away from somebody if it's at all possible. So there are circumstances where a student athlete would not be eligible to participate in games, but still would be practicing and may possibly even traveling with the team. Tobacco, first offense, you're out for 2 contests. Second time, termination of membership in the sport or activity for the remainder of that season. So you'd be out for the rest of the season. These infractions accumulate throughout the year. Students start each year with a clean slate. This is new, this is a little different. Beginning the first day of fall practice, which was today. If a violation is committed by a student who is not in season, the resulting disciplinary action would be applied at the beginning of the first sport or activity the student participates in that school year. We did a survey with students and parents involved, coaches, and it came a very strong majority came back in favor of this. Academic requirements and required courses are required to be NCAA eligible. So if your student thinks it's a possibility, you think it's a possibility that they may go on to play in college. There's certain things that they should be looking at academically their junior year to make sure that they will qualify. So then their junior year, they complete an NCAA eligibility form. Acknowledgement of risks. I'm just going to read this right off so I don't mess it up. Farmington School administrators and coaches are safety conscious and are trained to instruct athletes in the safe and proper techniques of their particular sports. However, due to the nature of athletic activity, injuries do occur. Unfortunately, you know, everybody that's been involved with activities or athletics for a long enough period of time knows that. The school provides the opportunity for participation while the parent retains the right of denial for such participation. So we want to make activities and athletics available to as many students as we can, and then as a family, you all decide if that's something that you want to be involved with. When participating in any type of athletic activity, there's always a possibility that an injury can occur. Statistically, an athlete will suffer at least one injury during their athletic career that requires that he or she miss a number of practices and/or games. And obviously, we're not trying to scare anybody, but we do need to be honest, and we do need to, you know, say that this really is the reality. It's not going to be, you know, every student is different, every situation is different, but over time, and when you look at averages, you know, things do happen. Some severe injuries may need to be surgically repaired and require an extended period of physical therapy. Athletes can also experience more serious injuries such as fractures, dislocations, concussions, internal injuries, spinal injuries, or possibly even death. And so, again, not trying to scare anybody, but it is the reality of the situation, and each family needs to be informed. You guys already are, but just to make sure that we cover all of our bases. And then each family, of course, decides if they want to do that. You know, personally, you know, my feeling, I think that sports and activities is a very productive, positive way for kids to be spending their time. I believe it gives them an opportunity to do something good while possibly staying away from something bad if they were not busy doing that. So each family has the opportunity to decide if the good outweighs the risks. Some things, communication that parents should expect from a coach, their philosophy. I'm not going to read through them all, it's in the handbook, but expectations, locations, team requirements. So those are some of the things that we want our coaches to communicate with parents. And then coaches, you know, things that parents can communicate back, express directly to the coach, schedule conflicts, concerns regarding a philosophy or expectation. We believe that direct communication between student and coach is the best way to resolve issues and answer questions in very many cases, so that's what we always want to have happen first. Coaches are professionals hired by the Board of Education to make decisions on what they believe to be the best for all students involved. And so coaches are constantly balancing what they believe to be in the best interest of each student with what is in the best interest of the team. And that is not always an easy thing to do. So they are trying to look at what every student's talents and abilities and contributions can be. They're also trying to look at what other students on the team can contribute, what the overall makeup of the team is, what the needs of the team are, and trying to balance all of that. So they're trying to look at the big picture as well as each individual student at the same time. Things to discuss with coaches, the treatment of your child mentally and physically, ways to help your child improve, concerns about your child's behavior, concerns about the safety and well-being of your children or others. Things that we do not feel like it's productive to discuss with coaches, and I'll try to elaborate a little bit without taking too much of your time. Playing time, team strategy, play calling, other student athletes. The nature of sports, one of the cool things about sports, I believe, is that you can watch a game and you can sort of play along with the people in the game or coach along with the coaches as the game unfolds, and you can think in your mind, oh, I would do this or I would do that. Or if I was this player, I wouldn't have made that move, I would have made this move. And that makes, for me, that makes it interesting, and I think it does for other people as well. And it gives you something to talk about while the action is going on. At the same time, there can only be, it doesn't work to have everybody to be a coach of a team. You know, any team's just got one coaching staff, and that's the way it is most productive and efficient. So whoever that coach is, it wouldn't matter who it was in this room. If you were coaching a team, everybody else, as they were watching, they would be having those thoughts in their minds. Oh, that's a good call. Oh, I wouldn't have done that. Oh, I think I'd play this kid. No, I wouldn't play that kid. And that's fine to think, to kind of strategize along as things go. But it wouldn't matter who was in charge of the team. Everybody else would have, for the most part, a different opinion. Not always and not on everything, but very often they would have a different opinion. So even though there's going to be differences of opinion on play calling, team strategy, playing time, you know, we have one set of coaches, that is their job, that is what they're going to do. Other student athletes, of course, we don't want to discuss any student with, you know, another parent or another student like that. So we don't do that whenever possible. It's almost always possible to accomplish that. Procedures for communication with a coach. At the end of practice, at the end of game, coaches have a lot of kids to take care of. Maybe something emotional happened one way or the other for the coach or the parent during the game or during the practice. So the best time to have those conversations is not right after practice or right after games when coaches are trying to get other things done. Set up an appointment. Try to contact the coach. It's hard sometimes for coaches to answer the phone during the school day because, of course, they're in class. You can call the athletic director office, and I can try to arrange an appointment. It gives everybody a time to sort of think through the situation, think through how to best address the situation before having the meeting. If after the meeting with the coach, no satisfactory resolution is reached, you can contact me and we'll just set up a meeting to discuss the situation. And there at the bottom, that's the phone number in the office there. This is something that's new in the activities handbook, expectations of coaches. It's new to the handbook. I don't think it's a new expectation for our coaches, but it's new that it's in there. We want to live, teach, and expect positive character traits from ourselves and from our students. Provide a positive role model, help every student develop to their fullest potential, communicate well with students and parents, create a positive team environment, care about the students as people, address injuries with the care and attention necessary, and conduct themselves in a manner that reflects positively on Farmington High School. And again, these are just a few of the things that are in the handbook. Please check out the entire handbook. Okay, we are almost done, and I'm going to get out of here in an hour and a half. A parent recommended this book to me. I read it, just finished it a few weeks ago, and it's a very good book. It's mostly about coaching, but as I was rereading it, certain parts of it, it sort of occurred to me that it could also be applied maybe to the way students think about things as far as their involvement with activities, and possibly even the way parents think about it. But the way we're going to do it as coaches, these 4 questions are in the book, and he talks about a lot of different things in the book. Joe Ehrman, he's an ex-NFL football player, college All-American, and then he is now a high school football coach, or at least he was. I'm not sure if he still is or not. Here's 4 questions that he believes are very important for coaches to be able to answer, and for me to be able to answer. Maybe there's a way that athletes can look at these and also have it be productive for them to think of a way to answer. Why do I coach? Do I coach because of the way I was coached? Do I coach because I had a great experience when I was growing up and I want to duplicate that? Do I coach because I didn't have a good experience in athletics when I was growing up and I want to make it better for somebody else? Do I coach because I had a lot of success? Do I coach because I never won a game and I want to change that? Why do I coach? Taking a look at that. That sort of helps us to get to the motivation behind why we do what we do. Why do I coach the way I do? You know, what other coaches had an influence on us? You know, which coaches had an influence on us as we were growing up? Which other adults had an influence on us when we were growing up? And what things were important that those people did that made it so that I want to coach that same way? What does it feel like to be coached by me? These last two to me are the most important ones. Everybody's different. To me, it's the last two. What does it feel like to be coached by me? Regardless of whether we win a game or lose a game, regardless of how the season goes, what the coach may have wanted to accomplish or thought the team could accomplish, at the end of every practice, at the end of every game, we have teenage kids that are growing up, that are maturing, that are in a lot of ways really grown up, and in some ways are still getting there. And they have emotions about what's going on. They have feelings about what's going on, and it affects them deeply. So what does it feel like to be coached by me? Do they feel like even though I'm pushing them and expecting a lot from them, that I care about them and I want to know what's going on in their lives? You know, how does it feel to be coached by me? When I was a young coach, I don't know if I could have answered that question, what does it feel like to be coached by me? Looking back now, I'm not sure I could give a great answer all the time for when I was coaching, and I regret that. So that's something that we're going to talk about and try to, and I think our coaches already do a good job of this, don't get me wrong. I think our coaches really are aware of this, but I think that talking through this a little bit is going to help us to be even a little bit more aware of it. How do I define and measure success? And this is something that I think we can all be a part of the conversation, or we can all have conversations with ourselves about. We define our success by undefeated seasons, conference championship, district championship, state championship. Do we define our success by how much fun the kids have? Do we define our success by any one of a number of things that you might, or your child might, or a coach might be looking to get out of the season? What is it that we use to measure success? Going back to where we kind of started, measuring our success, helping our kids to continue to be positive leaders in our schools right now, helping our kids to continue to be positive leaders in their team right now. That's one way that I believe we should measure success. The other way that we can measure our success, that I believe we should measure our success, is what kind of husbands and wives, moms and dads, what kind of employers, what kind of employees, what kind of citizens, what kind of neighbors, what kind of churchgoers are our kids 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now, and did we have a positive impact on that? When I was in high school, and I think probably a lot of people in here had a similar experience, I played more than one sport. One of the sports that I played on was a really good team. We won a state championship. It was awesome. And I love to win. Don't get me wrong, I love to win. And winning a state championship was an awful lot of fun. I also played on another team my senior year that was terrible. We were really bad at that sport. Now, looking back, I learned as much positive things, in my opinion, that helped me to do as good as I can do on the team that lost a bunch as I did on the team that won a bunch. Now, does that mean I wouldn't have liked to win a whole lot more basketball games than we did my senior year? Yeah, I definitely would have. But what I was able to learn, and I believe what our kids can learn, is not directly tied to whether we won a game or lost a game. When they are husbands and wives and moms and dads, 20 years from now, it's other things that they've learned along the way, whether we win or we lose, whether they start or they're a sub, whether they've made all conference or they don't. And those things are important, I understand that, but the things that we learn as we go through those are the things that are going to make a difference in their lives 15 years from now, 20 years from now. And so, to me, that's the two ways that we can measure our success. And so that will define the way we go about things. That will define the way we react. Here's something that you can do as a parent. Here's a question, and this was brought up at a parent meeting in the spring, late winter, spring. What is one or more things that I should know about your child that will help me coach him, and I being the coach. So imagine your coach asking the coach of your son or daughter's team asking you this question. What is something that you know about your child, because you're their mom or their dad, you're their guardian, you know them better than anybody, what's one thing that you know about them that would help me to coach them better? Maybe you can think of something, maybe as you think about it, you don't come up with anything. I would not make the assumption that just because you know it, everybody knows it. But if you can think of something that you would want to share with the coach that you believe would help them to coach your son or daughter better, that's a very valuable insight that the coaches can have. And so just email that information to the coach. If you go, so the coach's email address is their first initial, last name, and then at farmington.k12.mo.us. But if you want to get, if you don't know their email address, we're trying to have the sports website all the way updated. So if you go to fhsknights.com, click on fall sport, winter sport, or spring sport, and then hit sport, like the sport, whatever the sport is, volleyball, baseball, cross country, and then click on program link, and then coaching staff. That's a lot of steps to go through. I know it's a hassle, but then it'll have the coaches' emails on there if you don't already know their email. So that is something that you as parents could do to directly help our coaches. We talked about this last year. I still think it's important, just because we've said it before. I don't think it changes whether it's true or not. 3 things that you can tell your child before a game. I didn't come up with this, somebody else did after doing some research. Have fun, do your best, I love you. You can tell that to your kid before every game, before every practice, and it will always be applicable no matter what the situation is, and it will always be helpful, I believe, to your child. 3 things you can tell your child after a game. Did you have fun? I'm proud of you and I love you. No matter what happened during the game, no matter what happened during practice, even if they aren't on a team during a certain season, when they come home from school, 3 things that you can tell them that will always apply, that you can always have a conversation about, that I think will always be meaningful to your child. I try to do that with my kids. And then successful college athletes were asked what they most like to hear from their parents regarding athletics. So these are upper level kids. These are kids that are very successful in athletics. They were asked what they liked to hear from their parents. I love to watch you play. That was the top answer. Their parents telling them it is so much fun to watch you play. And so that is one thing that you can always say to your kids, and that kids find meaningful. That last thing, there is a blue sheet of paper. Many of you, I think, already filled it out and turned it in. If you haven't already, that's kind of your ticket out of me hounding you to watch this thing online. If we have the blue sheet and you filled it out, you got your name and your kid's name on there, you checked off what sports they're going to play, then we know that you were here tonight, we know that you got the information, we know that we don't have to ask you to watch it online. So if you have not filled that out and turned it in yet, please do so. You can hand it, I think, at the tables when you walk out. Those tables that were there are still there. You can hand it to them on your way out. Thank you very much for coming. We appreciate it. Have a good evening.